Have you ever started a project without a plan? That was how our family room project began. On an impulse one day, I was sick of the yellow walls and yellow ceiling, and I just started painting. Never mind the fact that I was going to need to get up on a super tall ladder that I couldn't carry into the house by myself. I may have been pregnant with my daughter, I can't remember the exact timeline. Just know that it was not good timing and I had no actual thoughts about where this space was going. But I had an urge to begin, and so I did. Now, I don't recommend this. In fact, I go through great lengths to teach people how to tackle projects correctly. So in this video, I'm going to tell you why this room has taken us so long. Hint, it has something to do with what I just mentioned, but where we finally gotten to after several years of hard work. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Nina Hendrick, and I help women create homes that combine comfort and beauty so that you can spend your time focusing on what truly matters, which is making meaningful memories with your family. Today, I'm going to introduce you to our family room, which is the room that I am standing in right now and is finally approaching the finish line after living here for almost a decade. So, as I mentioned, I just started painting the walls one day. I had no actual plan for where this room was going to go. I just knew that I couldn't stand the yellow walls and the yellow ceiling for 1 second longer. And yes, the ceiling itself was yellow. It was painted a slightly paler shade of yellow, which I'm told was a common practice at the time. And so I just knew that that needed to change. I did not know what else we were gonna do from there. Now, if you're familiar with my story or if you've been around for a little while, you may have heard me say that we spent all of our money on our house. We were the classic house rich and cash poor people who had just bought our second home. We had the furniture that had been left over from Mac's man cave in our basement in our former home. So it was this brown puffy leather that I'd not weighed in on the purchase of because I said, look, this is where you watch football with your big screen TV. I really don't even care what it looks like. Except we got to this house and our furniture got ruined in the process of moving. It got rained on. So our microfiber couch, which wasn't the best thing in the world, but was slightly more aesthetically pleasing, had to be thrown out because it started to grow mildew. Not only that, but I just mentioned in a video last week that we ended up with a giant big screen TV over our fireplace. So I had a big black box over our fireplace and then brown puffy leather furniture. And you know, a lot of people have to work with that. I completely understand that that's a design situation that is not uncommon and you may even be facing it yourself. And so I did what I could to work with that for a very long time. I painted the walls Benjamin Moore Edgecomb Gray and it looked a lot better. And so the way Mac tells it, when he got home from work that day and I had already started painting the walls without a plan, he knew he had to jump in and help. And so that is how we painted our living room. And unfortunately, a couple of our projects have started that way. But what that did was it started the project without actually having any idea of where the finish line was. And so for a while, that was it. That was our family room. We had the brown leather couches, we had the Edgecomb Gray painted walls, but we didn't do anything else. But after a bit, we decided that we wanted to tackle the fireplace. And the impetus for that project was hiding the wires in the walls, which is something that I actually talked about in that same video that I just mentioned about how to decorate with a TV above your mantle. And so once we rerouted those wires through the walls, we wanted to make the fireplace look a little bit prettier. And so one of our weird Craigslist stories, we put our old John Deere lawnmower on Craigslist and we got a response from a countertop and stone fabricator. And he offered us stone in exchange for our lawnmower. So we were able to choose remnants from his most recent projects, which happened to be perfect because I had wanted a soapstone and marble look for the fireplace. We were planning on trying to achieve that with tile and then a slab of a soapstone look, and he showed me jet mist granite and super white quartz, both of which happen to fit within the color family of what I was looking for. The super white quartz looks just like marble, and the jet mist granite is perfect. It's almost a clear knockoff for soapstone, and it's what I ended up using in my kitchen later on. So it was really kind of like fate. And so we used those two pieces for the springboard for the rest of the project, which was really just wrapping that brick in white trim and giving it some decorative corbels, and taking a big chunk of wood that was gifted to us from our family friend Bernie, who always provides us with that beautiful milled rough pine, and we turned that into our mantle. And so for a long time, that was the next step. That was where it sat. We had this beautiful fireplace. Of course, above it, we had that giant TV, and we had the brown leather couches, and then we built a coffee table. And so Mac is really great at carpentry, and when we first started out, we couldn't afford to buy solid wood furniture, but we weren't really interested in wasting our money on fiberboard, knowing that it would break with our young kids, and we'd just have to buy another piece anyway. So he built us a really sturdy, chunky coffee table. And it tied everything together so nicely for a long time because the brown top really matched the mantle, the dark walnut mantle, and then the brown leather of the couches. Obviously, I had different hopes and dreams for this space, but once again, no plan. So there it sat. And so my blogging journey was really starting to take off at this point, and I really wanted to get our family room decorated. And so finally, several years into the process, I decided to come up with a plan. We shopped around and we searched, and we finally settled on Pottery Barn Comfort sofas. Now, I've written a blog post all about my slipcover woes with these white slipcovered sofas. Mac did not want white. We had two little kids with another on the way, and he was like, why on earth would we have white furniture? But I was adamant. I said, look, we can make white work. I will wash it once a month. I will have it looking pristine. And it was never a nightmare. It did look nice, and I did love it. But we recently have swapped, as you can probably see in the background of this video, to dark charcoal gray. And so I will go all into slipcovers another day. So just know that the next step was replacing the brown leather sofas with our current Pottery Barn Comfort sofas. I also added a gallery wall to the tall wall behind the sofa. And it wasn't the best solution. It looked cute for a long time, but it wasn't right for the scale of that wall. So I knew pretty soon after we did it that it wasn't going to be a permanent solution. I still wasn't sure exactly what the room would look like, but I knew that I wanted something that looked neutral and natural and brought in a lot of fresh greenery and neutral textures that could really pair with any seasonal decor that I decided to bring in after. Fast forward a couple of years, and we decided to do two big projects in the family room. One was to cover up those ceilings that I mentioned. By that point, the wood beams had really deteriorated. They couldn't be fixed because they were rough, so they couldn't be sanded down and restained easily. So we decided to cover the ceilings in tongue and groove wood and then wrap the beams in trim, and everything would be solid white. So we tackled that project, getting up on the scaffolding and putting up that tongue and groove. It was a major project, but it looked great for a little while. Unfortunately, not long after the knots started to bleed through, we didn't use the proper products, and we knew we were gonna ultimately have to have it repainted. But in the meantime, we knew we had another project in the family room that we wanted to tackle, and that was adding the built-ins to our fireplace. And so we used stock cabinets from Home Depot to create built-ins for either side of our fireplace, and then we added bookshelves on top. We also put a backdrop behind our TV with more tongue and groove wood. And at that point, our family room was greatly improved. We tied everything together with a nice custom sisal rug to fit the kind of awkward dimensions of the room. It's 12 by 20, so it's very narrow and very long. And so this custom rug fit perfectly, and it kind of tied the room together. We didn't have any more plans for the room, but we knew somewhere in the back of our mind that those knots were showing through and it was time to cover them up. But we had other projects and we couldn't come back to one that we had already chipped away at so many times. And so that's kind of what happens when you don't have a plan. The room just gets little pieces done, but ultimately nothing cohesive happens to bring the room together. But this time I came up with a plan, and we've almost finished the room, and I'm excited now that I've brought you up to speed to share the changes that we've made to complete this room. In fact, Mac made me record the following. We will never do the living room again. It's at 100% after this project. And so yes, we will never do this room again. I have now recorded that and then shared it with the internet, but I am super happy with how everything is coming together, and we have some finishing touches to put on this space, and I'm excited to bring you through that process. And so this is the introduction to our family room. I'll be sharing the updated mood board next and walking you through the different pieces of the final project. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could hit the heart or the thumbs up button depending on where you're watching, and follow or subscribe if you want to see more of this family room project as it unfolds. And so the moral of the story, don't start a project without a plan. And I will see you next time for that mood board.